Let's talk about these men's semifinals. Djokovic versus Sinner, Medvedev versus Zverev. Normally I do these previews and I talk about each player's paths to victory. Get really technical, get really tactical, talk about the skill sets, the patterns. The weird thing about these two semifinals is I think there are other things that are going to be more important. Stuff that doesn't have to do with skill sets and tactics and technical stuff. And those things are often harder to predict, and that's what I find so intriguing about these two semifinals. So Djokovic versus Sinner. The reason I say that about Djokovic versus Sinner is because Jannik has reached the point of well-roundedness where I'm not entirely clear about two things. I'm not clear about what aspects of the game are going to be the aspects in which Djokovic is most likely to separate himself from Jannik. And that obviously goes both ways, Sinner to Djokovic. And I'm also not clear on what exactly Djokovic might look to exploit/attack, what areas of the game he'll feel like give him the biggest advantages. Now, this has been a thing for Djokovic forever. It's always very hard to look at a Djokovic matchup and say, this is where so-and-so is going to find their separation against Novak. Unless maybe you run up against somebody like a Hurkacz who has the first serve weapon. Then it's pretty easy to lay out, okay, here's what would need to happen for Hurkacz to win. But for most matchups, it's very hard to get there when you're looking at Novak Djokovic because of the completeness. And to me, Sinner is also there right now. That's what's amazing. I mean, for Jannik, the consistency has really come along. The serve has really come along. The movement has come along. The variety has as well. These are all areas where last year, for sure 2 years ago, would have said, Sinner's not on Djokovic's level in that area, in that area, in that area. That would have been really easy to do. It's just harder to do right now, especially because Sinner's on a tear. And this happens a lot when players are doing a ton of winning. And that's all Sinner's doing. Win, 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 win. And then you start to realize, okay, you're watching him and you're not really seeing where are the cracks, where are the holes, what happens when he loses. You start to forget these things more and more. And over time, some things usually emerge. But right now, I'm not really seeing it. I can tell you what Djokovic did in the final at the year-end championship. I can tell you he served the lights out. He beat Sinner to the punch. He gave him zero time. Djokovic's forehand was the biggest forehand on the court, the fastest forehand on the court. Yeah, he hit it bigger than Jannik Sinner. He forced a ton of errors hammering balls into Sinner's forehand with 99.9 percentile pace. Sinner, in his 2 wins over Djokovic towards the end of the year, well, in those wins, Djokovic wasn't hitting quite as big, wasn't taking quite as much time away. So Sinner had a little bit more time on the ball, and he hit Djokovic off the court with that time on the ball. He went down the line more than Novak on both wings, which is very, very rare. He incorporated the forehand drop shot. He defended his forehand better in those 2 wins. So the point is, technically speaking, I don't know what it's going to be here, and that's the exciting part. And that's also where I get to the mental part, which is what I was alluding to at the start of the video. I didn't quite say it for dramatic effect. That's what I think this comes down to. Look, Sinner's mental game is great. He's calm. He's composed. He's focused. He fights hard. But historically, the nerve management, it hasn't always been there. It wasn't there at last year's Wimbledon semifinal against Djokovic. Every time the tension mounted in that match, Sinner got erratic. And that's why he lost in straight sets. That especially occurred on the forehand. And you can go back through Sinner's history. There have been a lot of big matches like that. The second half of 2023, that wasn't happening. And for the most part, it was big Sinner wins. But I think the nerve management is still a thing because this isn't a year-end championship round robin match. This isn't the Davis Cup semifinals, one of 3 rubbers. This isn't those things. This is a major semifinal. And yes, he had the Wimbledon experience last year. So it's okay second time around. You usually do better. You usually do better second time around. You've felt the feeling before. But if you want to talk about what's new here, this is the first time that there are title contendership expectations on Jannik Sinner. So I'm not saying that Sinner is going to be a nervous wreck in this match. I don't think he will be. I am saying that if you're forcing me to make a pick in this match, that's the main area where I think Novak is clearly better. The all-time great under pressure, all-time great problem solver, all-time great tactician. You have the Australia factor where there's an aura of invincibility, a level of confidence that can only be drawn from a historic level of year after year after year success. So I love Sinner mentally. I trust him mentally for the most part. But he ain't Djokovic. And this is a big major semifinal in a spot where Jannik's never been. So that is why I picked Djokovic in 5 here. But the technical aspect to it, it's cloudy for me, and that's what makes it so exciting. Zverev Medvedev, similar but different. Finally, these two play at a slam. 11-7, Medvedev leads the head-to-head. But you have a thing where Zverev had a lot of success early. Medvedev has come on late, and he's won 10 out of the last 12. So, I will get a little bit into the technical stuff here. And then, at the end of this, I'm going to tell you once again that I think the technical stuff might not be the most important here. I think Medvedev usually has a little edge from the baseline over Zverev. It's small, but I think it's there. Medvedev's forehand down the line is better. The height of Medvedev's ball, the way it stays low, that bothers Zverev. It takes away some of his quality. Zverev, especially on the two-handed backhand, he's better when the ball's high up in his strike zone. And Medvedev plays more creative patterns. He's harder to read. He's more disruptive from the baseline in terms of being unpredictable. So I think Medvedev usually has a little edge from the baseline. Usually it feels like neither guy can hit through each other. They're great defensively. They're not great pace generators. Zverev's willingness to come forward can sometimes be really handy in that situation. But also sometimes it's not that efficient. We know with Zverev and his level of clinicality on his approach shots and his volleys versus Medvedev's ability to counterpunch, that could go either way. Sometimes it seems like a big advantage for Zverev in this matchup that he's the one who's going to be brave and come forward. And then sometimes it feels like, okay, you tried it, but you didn't really win a high percentage of points doing it. Now the serves. Often I think Zverev and Medvedev, they're grouped together in a lot of ways. But in terms of serves, I think they're grouped together. But Zverev's is better. Zverev has a more deadly first serve than Medvedev. I think Medvedev's a slightly better returner. By the way, when it comes to serving, I don't think the second serve closes the gap anymore. There would have been a time where I think many would have said, well, Medvedev and Zverev, their first serves are similar, but Medvedev's second serve is better. Not the case anymore. Not if you watch this tournament. Medvedev's second serve has been a little bit shaky, and Zverev's hasn't been much of a problem at all. When Sasha's missing first serves, because my goodness, the percentages are just consistently through the roof for Zverev. Medvedev, he's not automatic like that in terms of first serve percentage. I'd be stunned if Zverev serves less than 65% first serves in this match. For Medvedev, I wouldn't be very stunned at all. But if you ask me, what is this match really going to be? What is it actually going to be about? What is it going to come down to? How are you going to make your prediction? Because, by the way, unlike Djokovic Sinner, this is one that I didn't have pre-tournament. Therefore, I haven't predicted this match at all. If you ask me like what the prediction is going to hinge on, it's none of the stuff I just said. This is going to be a physical war between two guys who can't afford another physical war. Both of these guys have played way too much tennis. They've each averaged about 3.5 hours per match. Medvedev, total time on court, 16 hours, 15 minutes. Zverev, total time on court, 16 hours, 52 minutes. It's about who gets off to a better start, because I think coming from behind is going to be tough in this match. And it's going to be about whose body lasts longer. I think Zverev is fitter. Zverev is 21-10 in his career in fit sets. He has a long history of doing really well physically in these long matches. Medvedev is 6-9. I've seen him fade much more often in best of 5. In the quarterfinals, Zverev wasn't struggling as much against Alcaraz towards the tail end as Medvedev was towards the tail end against Hurkacz. Now, I don't think either of them looked close to 100% at the end of their quarterfinal matches. Zverev fought through it great. Medvedev fought through it great. Props to them for that, but I don't think they were feeling great towards the end of those. From everything I've seen, just watching them throughout their careers, if you're going to tell me it's a war of attrition, it's just a battle of attrition. First to drop loses, last to drop wins. Physical, physical, physical. Who do I like more in that situation? Zverev. So, my pick is Zverev in 5. And do keep in mind, when I make these predictions, 3 means I am very confident and I didn't really consider going the other way. 4 means I have a lean, but I could see it going the other way. 5 means I could really see it going both ways, but my pick is my pick. And that's who I have over 50%. The reason I clarify that now is because I don't think Zverev versus Medvedev is going to be a 5-setter. Because once again, I don't think they have the gas to do that again. I think whoever is trailing, whoever's down, let's say hypothetically 2-1, I think they lose the 4th. So I'm saying 5 because I think it's hard to call, but I don't think it goes 5. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.